Well, how to do, everybody, and welcome back to the after show for episode number 77 of Final Boss TV, your game rating show. My name is Adam K, aka Bay, and I have a little tiny Tyrion Lannister ready to go for winter is coming back. He's ready. He's gonna sit right here. Can you see him? Wait, maybe. And we're talking about Guardian Druids, taking questions from chat room. You can't even see him. There's Arielle. There's Khaelyn. We're ready to go.
Hey.
Hello. There, I'll put it right there. How about that? I dropped him.
Stop dropping people.
It's terrible.
Yes.
So do we have any questions from chat that you guys picked up on that you want to
We're supposed to be.
address from? I mean, either you or me. We'll take questions. And we'll answer things and talk about stuff and bear things.
Saw the words mob movement and stopped thinking.
Oh my god.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
Ugh.
So, yeah, okay. So Thek and I actually did a whole episode on mob movement on Tankcast a month and a half ago, something like that.
Okay.
And it's just unbelievably frustrating that it was never addressed during the pre-patch.
Now you're talking about the fact that the server upgrades came in so that we react faster to the server, but they didn't actually put in a buffer for mobs, so that would fly through you whenever you move, right?
Yeah, so that means mobs also react faster to you,
Correct.
But because they still had their old movement prediction algorithm, they were basically still functioning as if the server was slower.
Was lagging.
But
yeah.
because the communication is so much faster now, they overshoot all the time.
Yep.
And it's really annoying, especially for bosses where there's precise movement that you have to perform. It's so annoying. Challenge modes, if you think it's bad in raids, challenge modes are a zillion times worse. It's so bad.
It's funny you use that word because she's the tank for mine. but I don't understand because people don't understand. People don't remember. Before Warlords of Draenor, the polling system in the back end of the servers would packet everything together in a 300 to 400 millisecond window, and then kick it all to the server, kick it all back to you, right? Now it's a dynamic 40-ish millisecond ping, 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 back and forth. So everything reacts faster. That's why your buttons go off sooner. That's why your healing cooldowns heal the tank before they die in GCD. But yeah, for tank movement, since they don't have a buffer anymore, they react when you react, and then they react to your overreaction that you have to react to their reacting, and then they're behind you and killing you because
It's the world's most frustrating thing in the world.
If you've ever tanked, I think the one boss that I've only done heroic dungeons on my paladin tanking, Ner'zhul, is hilarious to tank.
Oh, that was horrible. At launch, that was so bad.
Because you want to make sure his little fan of death doesn't hit the group. So you're I'm gonna move him a little bit, and he's behind you and he hits the whole raid.
Yeah, it was really bad. And Kargath was also really bad for that. Because on Mythic, you're trying to put him in places where the melee can actually get to him, and still dance the fireballs. Bigger mobs are okay because their hitboxes are so huge that they don't overshoot you. But anything small, anything humanoid size or smaller is just terrible. It's so bad.
Sorka.
Yeah, Maidens is atrocious.
When they're not a huge boss model, because moving Gruul, move him anyway. But if you had to heal, it's fine. But yeah, the smaller models that are your size, I can't.
I got so frustrated with Sorka tanking. I could feel the tears of frustration coming. I wasn't sad. I was just so angry.
Yeah.
Trying because you need her to stand somewhere specific, and you need to stand somewhere specific yourself.
Yep.
And you think you can wiggle her right in, but no. I can't even talk about it. I can't even the words are not even there.
I didn't put this in the show notes on purpose because it's an incredibly kind of volatile topic that all tanks, I'm pretty sure, unanimously hate.
Oh, everyone hates it.
But there's nothing we can do about it because nothing we can do. Blizzard
know.
has to code in a buffer for mob AI reaction time back to the
something.
300 or 400 millisecond movement because you can't even tank push anymore.
Nope.
Which that was a huge, great thing that tanks got used to. They knew how to use it. They knew how to position themselves to move a mob backwards. Now you try to move through a mob, he's just like, I'm gonna hit you in the butt, and you're dead.
Yep. Strafing doesn't work anymore. Like,
I don't.
well, it works like 50% of the time. It's bad. It's really bad.
It is
I try
bad.
not to strafe anymore. I try to turn myself sideways and then backpedal because it's like the safest, consistent action you can do.
Yeah,
Yeah, totally agree.
I don't know why. It just needs like a 300 millisecond buffer. It really does. It needs that built into mob movement. I don't know if they even can. Can they do that?
Maybe. I mean, or they just like turn down how far the travel prediction is on movement.
Yeah.
That would be a way to solve it too.
Yeah. Because obviously it's a tank problem, but as a melee DPS, it then becomes my problem because the funnest thing is like Thogar, right? You gotta stay between the donuts of death, and then if the boss like moves the wrong way and he's in the fire, then you can't hit him anymore. Because the tank had to move to back up and position him. So if he moves incorrectly and the tank prediction path wants to put the boss like right there in the face, then he's in the fire, and then we're like, I'm just gonna stand here, I guess, a little bit. You can't try to like retroactively recreate and adjust to it too, because then the mob is like all around you.
Yeah, totally. There was something that was mentioned earlier about Frenzy Regen being an absorption, which would be, unsurprisingly, a really good talent choice for level 100.
Oh, what was it?
I was just talking about how like Wish Frenzy Regen was absorption rather than a heal. And it's like, oh, that'd be a really good talent.
But then that's just like guard, or shield barrier, or sort
Sure,
of like...
but you also but you're trading some of your existing self healing to get an absorption. So
if it made you're talking about like a major glyph. Are you talking about like a glyph
no,
system?
Level 100 talent, just like
the
GOE.
talent. Oh, okay. So make pulverized baseline.
Well, no, replace Blissing Fur.
No, take away Blissing Fur. Terrible, terrible talent.
I don't. I mean, my only other thought process to that is that they have to give you, because they can't make every tank the same, obviously. But when they wanted every tank to be this reactive tanking style, but only druids and DKs have that, it's interesting. I don't know. Well, I don't know. We're not gonna see any major tank changes until 7.0 anyway, so.
Yeah, probably not.
Yeah, decrease their melee range compared to melee tank range so they can actually chase you. I guess Trekkies talk about that whole boss movement thing.
Yeah, I think that would be more difficult because I'm suspicious that that's like a base thing for all melee interactions,
right?
Like PC and NPC. So I'm a little leery of that. We have feral charge. Why do we? I don't.
Right.
Yeah.
So another thing,
Trekkie's so trolling right now. Yeah, that's. Oh, Martin. Oh, innocent little Martin. Well, not little. You're like 17 feet tall.
Yeah, he's really tall.
Style goes red. You react and press purify. Or you just chi explosion.
Don't really have a problem with feral charge. Like, I think the fact that it's a talent is fine. I don't. Maybe a lot of people are just overlooking the fact that you have a short distance charge already in Skull Bash. Does people just forgetting that a lot? I don't know.
Right, because you're talking about how feral charge now. It's right. Where is it?
It's a talent, but you still have Skull Bash. Like, there is a movement component to Skull Bash, which is really strong.
Yeah, 13 yards. That's not bad.
Not only that, but it's easily used to counter like knockbacks and stuff like that. So it's not, and it has no minimum range, whereas Wild Charge does.
True.
So
yep. I mean, 13 yards is just double a normal melee range, so that's not too shabby. That's pretty good.
I've never really understood the pull for feral charge to be baseline. Again, I don't see why. I don't see why it needs to be.
And the argument is like you're a rage class and warriors can just charge. And you
warriors can do it. Well, we can.
The argument is that we had it for such a long time, but it was a talent for ever. I think it's always been a talent actually.
It's always
Is
been
just
a choice.
it's the level. It was like the level 11 talent, which everyone
Right.
always took because you didn't not take it. But I don't know. I think it's fine as a talent the way it is.
Would you take Force of Nature if, instead of trees, it summoned mini bears to fight by your side?
Yes. Yes. This has been my dream. You don't even know unless you do. I have
that
my
was
little...
great.
To be honest, I have suggested that before, that instead of trees, we should get bears.
little bear cubs.
Little bear
Just saying.
cubs.
What would be better
Well,
than that?
The same question came up on the Boomkin show: is if like little thunder turkeys would come to your aid instead of trees. Trees should be a resto druid thing. Little
Yeah.
bears, little cats, and little boom chickens should be for the other specs.
All baby versions though.
They
gotta be kittens.
Moonkin hatchling
cubs.
exists, and the kitten cub exists. They're in the game. They're pets already.
I know.
Or make it a glyph. Make it a glyph. Make it a glyph. Make it a glyph.
Like I spent like an entire day tweeting out possible situations where you could like, or possible iterations of the talent. You know, maybe they don't taunt. Maybe they like, I don't know. If they get killed by the mob, you go into a rage and gain like extra damage for 2 seconds or something. I don't know.
Right.
Because I'd be pretty upset if someone killed my bear cub.
Bear cub.
Just saying.
Bear cub exists too. It's a pet, man. It's a pet.
It doesn't. So, Skullbash. The thing about Skullbash is you won't charge if you use it while you're still within melee range. You'll just interrupt. So you have to wait till you're outside of melee range before you use it to charge. I don't know. I've never really had a problem with doing that.
Right.
But that's just me. The key is to wait until you start moving and then Skullbash to charge for things like knockbacks. That's always been the key. Always wait until you start moving.
Right.
And there's those scary times where you Skullbash like Kromog. And
then you go flying off the edge.
And it Skullbashes
almost
you
did
to the
that
middle
once.
of him. And you go off the edge because I don't know why.
Right.
I think it depends on the angle at which you do it.
Why, though?
When I'm doing it from the side, it's always fine. But when I do it from like the middle, I've gone pretty close to flying over the edge.
Oh, I've died twice. I'll say it. I've just ran right off the edge because when you Skullbash, you're running. So.
I think after I got my 4-piece, I did a spirit walk back into Kromog, but it also you have I wasn't used to the fact that like after my dash was over because I was moving around killing hands, I was still in Ghost Wolf form, which gives it a new movement speed because of the new 4-piece for Enhanced Shaman, and I ran off the edge. Yeah. Because I have an extra sprint. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna run faster anymore. My spirit walk's fading, and then I just like overshot the movement. Yeah, I like to like jump into that position. Like I jump right next to the boxes, and with jumping with the movement speed, you have more inertia. So right off the edge. Yep.
It happens.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess in that regard, there's no glyphs that affect a certain talent directly. But if it's a cosmetic glyph, like there are tons of cosmetic glyphs that make things look different or changes the effect of things. There's a cosmetic glyph that makes boomkins not go boomkin. Like they can figure out a way to make a cosmetic glyph that will make, your summoned minions be something different. There's a glyph for that for warlocks to make your doom guards and stuff hold different weapons, or your fel guard or whatever. Like they could do that, and the models exist in the game already. So,
Dreads is talking about bear damage.
Bear
It's
damage,
bear damage is mostly keeping dots up and then timing Zerk primarily for optimal use. So, for example, on Flamebender, you want to use Zerk on when the dogs spawn, so you can cleave off of 3 targets. Other fights like Maiden's is another example. You want to use it when you're going to cleave off of 3 targets, which is usually between boat phases, or if you're going to be on a boat. Which boat do I do? I do Sorka's boat. So Zerks are really good for Sorka's boat because there's 3 targets up all the time, so you can cleave for a lot of damage there. But primarily, it's just using or making sure dots are up all the time, and using also trinkets. Tablet, lots of damage. Tablet's so good.
I mean, I'm assuming that because I know back when we doing Cho'Gall, we had a 3 tank, and our feral druid would have to go bear, and his opening burst damage was pretty big deal. I'm assuming it was probably like Soul the Forest, Berserk, and just Mangle spam with pre-pot, like agility pre-pot up and trinkets and stuff like that. So, I mean, that's all it is. It's beginning the fight during Berserk, and then it's gonna fall off from there.
Oh, and if you can time Zerk with Hero, or Hero or Bloodlust, that's ideal.
Right.
Because you'll have a 1 second GCD.
1 second GCD.
Which means lots of Mangles.
Yeah, that's true. True.
Also, if you're really dedicated to damage, like we said earlier, taking different talents, like in your 100 tree, if you don't want to take Pulverize. Unless you already said that.
But that's the one thing we didn't really bring up about Pulverize is I think we asked you about this in the beta tanking episode. Like, if you don't have Pulverize, are you actually just going to lose damage directly? Or is it kind of damage neutral because you actually lose the dot, have to reapply the dot and the ticks that you don't have during that period of time? Isn't it like it's not a damage loss to not have Pulverize? Or is it damage gain to have Pulverize?
You flip that around. So Pulverize is a damage loss.
Okay.
It's how much is kind of up for debate. It really depends on how much haste you have, because that determines which GCD in the 12 seconds you're going to be replacing with a Pulverize. Right. So if you're replacing a Mangle with a Pulverize, it's a huge damage loss. If you're replacing with a Lacerate with a Pulverize, not so much. The upfront damage on Pulverize pretty much evens out the loss of the Lacerate stacks.
Sure.
Just the big damage difference is depending on which ability you're replacing Pulverize with, because Mangle's now for 60% weapon damage with Soul of the Forest, which is a huge ton. Like, it's more than Pulverize because Pulverize is only 400. So yeah.
Interesting.
Yep.
I've always kind of wondered about that, because if they make a talent that removes a dot but then interacts with it to do more damage, does it actually gain or a loss? But if it's a slight loss, I guess, then
Well, it's a loss depending on how much of a loss depends on which GCD you're replacing with it. Because Lacerate ignores armor on the impact and the dot, obviously, because it's a bleed.
Right.
So it does 60-something% AP, which is slightly. I'm trying to do math in my head.
Right.
It's 1/3. It's about even with a 400% weapon damage, depending on your weapon, I think. Maybe a little less. So then you're losing the dot damage, because you're not going to be stacking up Lacerate in the 3 subsequent GCDs usually. There'll almost always be a Mangle or a Thrash in there. So, Pulverize is a damage loss. It's not that much of a damage loss, depending on which GCD you're using it on, and if damage is really your concern, then you're going to take GOE anyway.
Carlos is asking about the multi-strike build. Throw it over to Khaelyn real quick. We talked about that in the main show a little bit, but you can reiterate for Carlos's question if you like. Go, Khaelyn, go!
Carlos! Oh my god, chat's moving too fast.
Have you guys tried a multi-strike build?
Oh, there we go.
Or a major?
Yeah. When I went into Foundry, I did switch to multi-strike, because the extra health helped take those big hits. So it was really effective for the first half of the raid before I got the gear that I needed to replace all my terrible high mall gear that was itemized so poorly. So 25% multi-strike is what I kind of sit with. You can do more, you can do less. It's purely up to your preference and what your healers are saying about how easy it is to heal you and all that stuff. But it's definitely a viable build for sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Some troll questions about why would you play a Guardian when you could play a Monk? It's pretty funny.
Right?
Because I want to play a Guardian.
I know. I mean, it all comes down to personal preference. If you want to play a bear, if you want to play a druid, then you play a druid. I mean, I
said earlier, I mean, I don't personally feel like my class was holding back my guild in any way.
You just locked in 27th US, right? So,
I mean, for our progression, it was fine. I mean, it was never a point where oh, Khaelyn, you're preventing us from killing this boss for some reason.
I know. Reroll monk. Damn, jeez.
Yeah, go get your level 90 monk. It probably takes less damage than your level 100 gear druid.
Ah, God.
So,
oh no.
So I mean, I've never encountered a fight where I couldn't do the content straight from whatever first boss you choose up until Blackhand. It's been completely 100% doable without
I guess
any
this
trouble.
This was back to the damage question, I guess, because of Heart of the Wild. Is it more beneficial to Heart of the Wild Cat to do damage, or Heart of the Wild Boomkin to do damage? Or is that fight dependent?
For the 15 seconds you have Zerk, it's better for Cat.
Okay.
After that, it's better. Caster's better. So if you're going to be able to use more than the 15 seconds, then Caster's better.
And
But
Caster's
you have to have a
better.
caster weapon.
Yeah,
So,
with a macro to swap it out. Yeah, right. Because you need the spell power.
well, you have to have a caster weapon to begin with, which you may or may not actually have.
Right. Interesting. I mean, the whole monk argument right now, Ripuk, is that monks just received some buffs that were over buffs because they were going to scale fine into what they needed to do. Now they stagger more, they have higher armor, and guard is pretty good at avoiding big mechanics. And the big outliers is stagger. You can just stagger so much damage, and since you can remove the dot bleed, whatever you want to call it, that stagger puts on you, there really is no a lot of drawback. And all of the high-end guilds will use monks for progression because of this, but if you're not clearing content in the first 2 weeks when it comes out, it doesn't matter what tank you roll, really. Honestly. No pun intended, but I saw what I did there. Yeah, I don't... They might be overpowered still at this moment, and they might be getting some tweaks before tier 18. I would almost assume that it's going to be. So the monk nerf going to tier 18. Otherwise, all top guilds will abuse monks, if not rolling double monk. Which would be bad for the tank design of the game. To see all the top guilds rolling with 2 monks. Obviously, some people won't go monk. Like, I don't think I'm going to see Sko on a monk for progression. No. But, you know, we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I don't know who Boom Kanye is of Seriously Casual.
Oh, hi,
I know
Bink.
who the previous tank for Seriously Casual was,
right.
But he quit. So because he went to SNF and then he quit in Highmall.
That's what Bink is
because he
saying.
Was salty.
Bink is saying people get to attach the optimal performance and ranks and what specs the bleeding edge guilds because of min-max purposes. But again, like if you're not killing content in 2 weeks after it launches, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I think in Highmall it did because bears were just really the weakest class. And you can even argue too. Brewmasters were really weak in the beginning of Highmall as well too. Either gear issues and before they got buffed, they were meh. You weren't even taking them. It was all about the shield tanks in Highmall. We even talked about that back on the show during the Highmall junkets. It was all shield tanks all day, every day. So, yeah.
There's a question from Woods about what happened to Guardian Druids make them more competitive. Depends on what your definition of competitive is.
Right.
Like damage other than AoE is fine. Survival is are balanced. It's the outliers that need to come into place, and I think we'll see that in the next year. So I'm not really too worried about it. I don't really know what the question's trying to get at.
A lot of people are. I mean, obviously, when you're going, if you're tanking or if you're DPSing in that regard, too, you're always going to look at people that are highly progressed, more past than you, and you're going to figure out what they did to see if you can amalgamate it to do yourself. It's the whole point of the show. Is talk to people that are at that higher level and then translate their brain confetti down to everyone else. So you can oh, that's what they did, and that's why they did it, and that's that's the math behind it and whatnot. But I still think you get a little stuck. That again, if you're not putting in 16 to 18 hours in the first 2 weeks of progression with 6 alts. So
I'm just checking for any more questions. 6.2 predictions. I don't know. Depends on what the timeline is for 6.2.
Late July.
If 6.2 is actually the next raid tier, I'd like to see our level 30 and level 90 talents get fixed, but who knows if they actually will.
Right. Well, that's the issue with you being a 4-spec class, is that every talent has to be good for everything, and that doesn't always work out.
Unless they split out the different specs to have different effects from different talents. Like they've done that.
A lot of classes have that. Yeah, I have that with the Shaman.
Yeah, like the Ysera's actually heals for less for Guardians than it does for the other specs. So easy change, buff that to 3%. Boom, that rose has 2 reasonable talent choices and problem solved.
Right.
I see Captain Midnight said something about our mastery affecting active mitigation, which is something I was talking to Bay about yesterday, actually.
Right.
Like I don't know the other tank specs very well, but I'm pretty sure we're the only one who have mastery that doesn't have anything to do with our active mitigation. It just seems really disjointed, and doesn't make sense really.
It's
but
I'm trying to decide whether I
size are
can tell
the
this
real
story
tell
or
of
not.
this. Yeah.
I'm probably not going to. So I agree that it feels really weird that our mastery doesn't really interact or like improve our active mitigation directly. It does indirectly because of the AP buff, but it does its job in the sense that it prevents you from dying when Savage Defense fails.
Yeah.
So, and yes, mastery does make Savage Defense less valuable the more of it you get. However, it's not a noticeable effect. Like it's it's like half a percentage decrease or something. It's really tiny, so you won't even notice. But I do agree that it does feel kind of weird that mastery doesn't affect RAM in any way directly.
It's sort of what to ruin their name, but a Frizonta. When you get 60% mastery, you don't need to dodge. It's true-ish to a degree.
I mean, dodging's like always going to be better. Taking no hit is always going to be better than like taking some hit. But I mean, yeah, once your mastery is like getting up into the 60s, it's kind of like, well, I could get hit. I don't really care if I do because I'm just going to absorb the next hit anyway.
It just makes you wonder about the next tier of content because you're going to have to imagine that you're going to go up at least 30 more eye levels going into Mythic Tier 18. If a Guardian Druid can get close to 100% mastery almost all the time, then like every other attack won't hurt you because you're going to have a full shield for its damage. That's a lot of mitigation. That's like better than Stagger, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's really strong. Quick question about challenge modes.
Sure.
So, challenge modes, this is going to hurt to say, but ideally you're going to be a Tauren because you really need that AoE stun, and we're the only tank that doesn't have one.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you need to tailor your comp to have AoE stuns.
Mm-hmm.
Right now my group has a Frost Mage, a Windwalker, an Elemental Shaman. So we have 2 AoE stuns right there, and a lot of CC and just direct damage. So, and the AoE stuns are really strong with Guardian of Elune because you can chain them into GOE plus external cooldowns and stuff to have a long period where you're taking no damage.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot different than Mists. Mist was basically just face roll after tier 14, like complete face roll, and all you cared about was how much damage you could do. Now you really need to balance that damage, like the amount of damage you're dealing with staying alive, and they're a lot harder than they were in Mists, for sure. And I've said this before, but mob movement is horrible for challenge modes. So bad. I think, Khaelyn, aren't you done them already?
Challenge modes?
Yeah.
No. I mean, when daily challenge modes were still like a thing that you did for gear.
Oh yeah,
I got close to a couple, but we weren't ever really trying. I've done most of them. I think there's a couple I haven't even tried yet, but hasn't really been high on my priority list.
But yeah, DKs and monks are ridiculously good at challenge modes. It's so good.
Yeah, I'll be doing mine with a monk tank. I just want to get them done, man. I mean, I don't have so many options with tanking classes. It'd be either that or a blood DK. So, one of the two.
But yeah, being a Tauren really helps. But other than that, you need to tailor your group comp to suit you, which I think this has been a complaint about Warlords CM since like beta, is that they're much less, or they're much more dependent on group composition, which I think is kind of a strike against them, because they're supposed to be, you have a reasonable composition, you have a heroism, you have a tank, you have a healer, you have 3 DPS, mixture of maybe some ranged and some melee with reasonable buff coverage, and you should be able to complete them, but that's not how it works. Like, I would probably almost say that unless you have a group of people that are like dedicated to doing them with you, you're better off going Resto or Balance.
Oof.
Probably Resto. If your only goal is to complete them, you're better off doing it resto.
That's a tough goal to
For sure.
tough pill to swallow there. Dang.
Yeah, it's really shitty, but
Yeah.
I mean, I happen to have a group of really good people that I play with, and I enjoy playing with them, and we do challenge modes. But not everyone has that, and that's
Right.
really important if you're going to be tanking them.
Right.
So, yeah.
Right. Oh, there's a toucan ASCII that's like lagging my chat out, and I can't click away from it. So it's even broken. Anything else? I guess we're at time, so nothing came in on Twitter at all, which everyone was asking in chat. So anything
Yeah,
else?
I don't have anything else to add.
Is there a link anywhere to Ari's UI? Are you gonna have your UI parts maybe in the Summon Stone thread?
The funny part about being a GM is that you have substantially less time to do anything else. Which means there are a lot of things that I want to write that I just don't have time to write.
Oh, okay.
So doing things like UI is on the list of things that I want to do, but
okay.
I'm also doing all the video guides right now. So once I catch up on those, I'll have a lot more time to do things like writing. Sorry.
It's fair.
I bet Khaelyn could write a post about her UI. She has lots of time. What is this?
Oh God.
Yeah?
People look at my UI and they're like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "It works for me." So
Oh, do you have a SCO UI? Oh gosh.
I don't think it's as bad as SCO's.
Nope, shots fired.
Cross fingers.
That's fine.
But
Right.
like I said, I'm a weak aura fiend.
Mm-hmm.
So I have auras for like everything. People are like, "Do you even look at these auras?" And I'm like, "I look at every single one."
Right.
Except Ursa Major, I don't always look at that one. That one I only look at for trash. So, but
to see how high your HP goes.
yeah. Well, that's
fun.
like that's the only fun I can have during trash because I'm not actually tanking any of it. You see. So.
The threat issue.
Right in the feels.
Blizzard, please. All right.
It's good times.
And great oldies. All right, it's button time number 2. Thank you all for being here again, of course, for the after show. If you have, of course, questions or curiosities or things, once the Guardian Druid guide goes up on Summon Stone, I'm sure it'll be retweeted on FinalBossTV, and of course you can just follow them on Twitter when it goes up. So again, around the table again, we had Arielle on the show. Thank you, sir, for being on here. You can go follow him on Twitter at ArielleEJ. You gonna post when you make the guide too, as well, I'm assuming?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Very awesome. And we also had Khaelyn. You can follow her on Twitter as well at Khaelyn with an A on the end. That's what it is. That's what it is. And the two of you are working on the Summon Stone guide together, right? Like it's the compilation together.
Khaelyn's doing all the boss specific stuff, and I'm doing all the like general mechanic crap.
He's the math
and
guy.
stats and stuff.
He's the math guy.
I'm the not math guy. So.
Right. That sounds good to me.
Together we're a whole person.
That's that sounds good. Next week again is going to be Resto Druids. Resto Druids next week. Resto Druids. You can find out more about that on our social media as we get that launched. Affinity will of course be back to have you guys cry with him in tandem. So have a great week, everybody. Have fun this week on the reset. Trusting your seal of tempered fate. Again, of course, chat room. You know nothing. And until next time, guys. Bye-bye.
Sorry, I was trying to answer questions.
No, that's fine. It's fine. It's good. It's good.
See ya.
Go run our final commercial break, of course.